Your ears do not deceive you. You have just entered the Cryptid Creator Corner, brought to you by your friends at Comic Book Yeti. So without further ado, let's get on to the interview.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Cryptid Creator Corner. I'm Byron O'Neal, recovering awkward person and your host for our Comics Creator Chat. Joining me today is Eisner-nominated comics illustrator and writer, who also apparently happens to be a fellow member of the Bouncers Union. That's Tony Parker.
Hi, that is absolutely correct, actually.
Yeah, okay. So tell me about this. So bouncing, I'm genuinely stoked. So I have another former bouncer on the show, which I think has only happened one other time. So within any individual tribe of them, everyone has a role, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe not a superpower, that's probably a stretch, but some unique identifying marker. There's somebody like the Thing, always, and you must have a charmer, like a Gambit. I'll maintain a Marvel equivalent here and say I was like the pyro of the group. You know, when we announced closing time, the inevitable stragglers who wouldn't leave, I'd start hurtling chairs across the room, which of course quickly encourages people to vacate. So I was always the first to take it to the next level, which probably still holds true. So what was your Marvel bouncer personality?
I have to, for Marvel, I was the I was the one that talked everyone down. I was the one that I was the de-escalator, which isn't a superhero. I know that, but I was the one, and that's so like what superhero actually's power is to reduce the harm? I mean, it's everyone because all superheroes are usually like that. Talk with the fist, but I was the one like everyone's let's take it down a level. Let's step up. I mean, always been a big guy, but one of my degrees is in psychology.
Okay.
And so I know that the worst thing the other one's in criminal justice. So therefore, between those two things, like the worst thing I can do is escalate the situation. Let's de-escalate. Let's calm everything down. Let's get around the parking lot. Because one thing that counts is as long as they're not on property, they're not our problem.
Sure.
So let's get them out the door, get them in the public area of the parking lot, and then it's not like, okay, go away with knives, knock yourself out. But that was my job, is to make sure they were just was just get one off property.
Okay. So. Yeah. I mean, I ran crews doing security for rap acts for years while I was on the road working, doing production manager stuff for said rap acts. So you always end up doing double duty and stuff. Yeah. I was never the de-escalator. That was not me.
I was big enough that people aren't going to immediately go to like start shoving me, but not so big that people will try to pick a fight in order to try to prove themselves.
Okay.
And it's one of those things. One of the great line I've loved using is size gets you in trouble, strength gets you out of it.
Okay, that's a great line, actually.
Because I was like, for watching video of this, I'm not a small guy. I like lifting heavy things, always have. But it's also something of the people that are really big. They're the ones that everyone tries to prove something against. So therefore, it's much easier to go through like, no, everything's cool. And I never had a line. I never had a specific segue. It was always depending on the individual, but trying to just keep them calm and, if necessary, escort them out. Because that's the problem with some of the places I worked at. The security there, because we don't use bouncer anymore, or didn't stop using that a while ago, apparently, was you're the door person or security. Some people joined it so they can get in fights. They had a day job. They just got there so they could beat people up. So they knew which door didn't open. So they try to put their head through that. Oops, wrong door, and through that way. And other people are straight up. They love throwing people down, or I always hated the people who wanted to be bouncers. So the ones that they go to the club like, hey, if you have any problems, you need anything, I got your back. Like, oh no, that's the last thing I need right now. And someone's going to try to jump in and like try to try to just make this situation worse, even though they've got their fantasy. Well, I'm going to be Patrick Swayze in My Way or the Highway. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. I'm a professional. This is my job to make sure that everyone has a good time. That includes the people that are having a bad time, so that we still want, unless they're repeatedly disruptive, sometimes they're just having a bad day. So want them to make sure they can still feel that they're welcome to come back as long as they behave. Not that I'm here to beat people up. So that's the fun thing is I worked like the old gamut of clubs from like, sometimes it's like New Year's Eve at your local TGI McFinnigan's, where it's, we can't afford a door person. We need an extra person here. Can you come over? It's all cash on the table. Done those. And this is past more than 7 years ago, so I'm not worried about statute of limitations. And other places, like I worked in one place which was in like one of the worst neighborhoods. It was 2 venues, 1 entrance. Larger venue was heavy country western, and the
Okay.
smaller venue was stripper slash techno.
Okay.
Through same shared parking lot, shared building, shared entrance, large small venues on each side. So with 2 basically diametrically opposite crowds sharing a parking lot. So as usual, like, hey, someone just threw a beer bottle into my windshield. Call insurance.
Yeah.
But having that kind of stuff there was not fun. I did not stay there long. It was like, this job sucks. The hours suck, and half the people here are working here because they want to get in fights. I'm going to find somewhere else. So don't miss it, because you know how it is when you work security. Yep. You've got a 6, 7, 8, 4, 6, 8, or whatever your shift is. You're just high attention, waiting for something to happen. Keeping everything is like threat assessment. I still have trouble going to bars or clubs because that's. You may have the same thing. You're looking around,
absolutely.
Like, you see all the stuff around. You're like, oh no, I can't. All you're looking for the tells. You're looking for the symptoms. You're looking for the different archetypes. Because not everyone's bad, not everyone's good, but it's like, oh god, that's all I. Whenever I go out to any like that, that's all I see.
Yeah, so my magic was being able to move through a crowd quicker than anybody else.
Yep.
And
oh yeah,
I don't know how I was that guy, but it was just like, how did you get here so fast? And it was
hey, that's a useful skill at San Diego Comic-Con as well.
Okay.
Because I've used that. I was the same way, where it's like, this is the best pathway forward. Because yes, I could bulldoze through people, but that makes things worse. How can I slide through people? And it's great when trying to get through crowds at San Diego as well. I'm just saying, it is a useful after job skill.
Hopefully I'll get a chance to polish up my skills sometime soon.
Yeah. No, it's, as I said, I hated that job. Not the worst one I had, but it was still like, it was so annoying. So it makes me appreciate what I do now so much more, because I've had those jobs. I'll talk to other people who work security, and it's like, they'll start talking about like how many of the original teeth they still have left.
Oh, wow.
And stuff like that. Or it's like, or like little stories like, I can handle the loud crowd. So the belligerent 3 or 4 or 5 guys are like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. Okay, we can deal with that. The scary ones are when they're the quiet ones, where it's the small group there, and they're not saying anything. They're just looking, they're quiet, and they have a bit of that shamble there. The hands maybe doing a little bit of that, or kind of warming stuff up. Like, just like start calling other people like, hey, just let whoever the local law enforcement officer who's off duty right now, just, hey, this is just keep an eye out, stuff like that. But yep, don't miss it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a little part of me that does, but
I get that.
I get my nuggets of wisdom into my son occasionally, and it's because the misconception is it's always look out for the big guy, And I was like, no, it's the little dudes. Those are the ones you really got to work out.
The drunk guy who's had a bad day, got dumped, got rejected, or just feels like they got to prove something. Yep. Or a lot of both men and women who have like that false sense of ego, is like, I can do anything. Don't you know who my partner is? Mm-hmm. Or I will mess you up no matter what, because I'm drunk and I have no societal control over that. So it's not just, it used to be, oh, that crazy woman. Or like, no, guys did it as well. It's just, they may have a different type of tact to it, but it's still that, oh boy, this is not gonna be fun. Let's keep distance and engage at a distance. If we need to restrain in groups, polite and talk through the entire time, and yeah, don't miss it.
Well, getting into what you're actually doing here with comic books, I think there is actually a parallel. I think we've totally dispelled any mystique about bouncing doorman
security,
whatever. Yeah, whatever we're calling it now, as clearly illustrates me as a dinosaur.
I'm probably using outdated terms as well.
But this image of a sentry, right? A protector is ageless.
Yes.
That is representing order amongst the chaos, which is not dissimilar to your main protagonist in your book, Medusa. Yeah. Only you've inverted it from the classic Greek root. So unlike the manifestation of primal fear, which we would normally associate with the mythical Gorgon, she's a cursed monster instead saving humanity John Wick style from her fellows, and echoed a little bit of Hellboy to me in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hellboy was in fact, when I pitched it to Dark Horse, I was a little worried, like, is this too close? Is this too much of the same gun with the serial numbers shaved off? Where it's like, oh no, I don't want to do this. So when I did that, I tried to make sure that Hellboy was definitely an inspiration. How you can have a singular human or humanized hero monster, for lack of a better term. And I absolutely love how he did that. And that's definitely something when I did that I went with, because initially with this I'm gonna do actually in a roundabout way, if it's okay, we can do a little backstory with this.
Go for it.
Because initially when I did it, my initial picture was for Emerald City Comic Con. Used to do a charity called Monsters and Dames. It's a charity book where you could submit in, not everyone made it in, to a book where it's had to have a monster and a dame. You could do whatever you want, just those were the things. And so I looked, I've done a couple before that, and I'm like, wait a minute, what if the monster is the dame? What if the monster is the hero? And it's like, just somehow, don't know how it came to it. What if it was Medusa? What if she was the hero? And I've got the monster in the background. So I just kind of drew it up, had a lot of fun doing it, and thankfully it posted. I saved that piece because usually you can they'll auction off the original arm. Like, no, this one I'm keeping. I've got to keep this one. This means a lot to me. So I donated another beautiful piece, and that sold well. But did that and went on working the regular day comics job. And I was working on a different book, and a couple of years later, a year or two later, sometimes when we work on a book, scripts can get delayed for whatever reason, not good or bad. It just happens. I realized, okay, I've got an 9 day period. They've warned me, like, I've got a little time here. So, like, you know what? I'm going to do a story with her. So I did a little 8-page story, and as I'm trying to figure the character out, I'm like, what is Medusa? And once I realized that, what if Medusa was not what we know, but was actually the victim of 2,000 years of patriarchy? We have a hero who have 2,000 years of men talking bad about her, especially gods talking like, and the people they tell the story throughout the eras where it's not, oh yeah, she was a good person. It's like, yeah, but we don't. We need to keep that on track, so we'll turn her from a hero into a villain. And from there, I shifted over from the like, okay, well then, we'll do that. She's a hero. I'm like, well, let's in that case, let's take all the guardrails off.
Okay.
Let's just go with it where it's like, she is her own thing. Everything you know about Medusa is a lie. And I shifted over, and I tell basically in the first couple pages of the story, so it's not a spoiler for the book. What if she's cursed so that everything she does, humanity cannot remember? All the good she does, humanity can't remember. And so she goes from place to place all over the world, and she's still doing the right thing because that's the right thing to do. And she helps people out. And I just love that, where it was that sentinel. But it's sometimes you have sentinels where it's a point of honor for or pride for a certain area, where it's, I must protect this place, or must protect this person or this thing. And for it's, I need to protect everyone because it's the right thing to do. And because I have the ability, and I don't want to say anything about that because there's some fun reveals in the story. But I really want that, again, that protector. Where with Hellboy, and I love it. And it's nothing against Hellboy, but he's like, kind of throws in because there's nothing else to do, or he's got his other reasons beyond that, but it's not that. And there's some writers who say you can't have a hero who just does the right thing. It's boring. And I can get that. I totally get that. But I run into two things. One, where it's, what if you can? What if you can? Someone's like, I want to help people out. You don't help someone on the side of the road just because you've got trauma from not getting help when you need to change tires. Sometimes it's that person needs help. I have the ability to help them out. I want to help them. The other part of that is, I'm not a strong writer. This is the first thing I've ever written since probably college. To have that, be able to write with that nuance and skill, and to a point where people are actually going to enjoy it, I do not have that capability. I'm not saying I won't down the road, but at this point, I have also very much acknowledging not just what I do, but what my editor for this book, Stephanie Cook, who's amazing, what she can help suss out of me. So it's very much like, there's a huge difference between scrambling eggs and like making a croissant. There's a skill level there where when you're just right and the dinner's due at 5 o'clock, you're going to scramble eggs. You're not going to go through and try to fumble through a croissant.
I mean, you're being very humble here, but defaulting to what you very much are clearly good at,
Yeah.
you have a beautiful character language that you've crafted
Thank
with
you.
her. Like the silhouette is immediately memorable.
Thank you.
Covering her face with a mask and then having this gorgeous, massive, writhing monocle cobras
Yep.
gives what would otherwise be a prosaic soldier's outline kind of a unique dimension,
Yes.
which really carries it for me. So talk to me about that character's design, kind of how you wanted to use it and manipulate it in the book.
Well, first off, I was like, she's a hero. There are other people who have done Medusa as the flowing robes and the large breasts and all those things, which nothing wrong with that. That is definitely one of the concepts you can work with. I'm not going to begrudge other people going that way, but I looked at her as a hero. It wasn't what is a woman going to wear? What is a hero going to wear? A hero is going to wear practical outfits and applications as much as possible. She's wearing BD battle dress uniform pants because they've got pockets. They're ripstop material. They're pragmatic. They're very practical. Her boots, which are actually, I'll spoil this one. The book's been out for a bit. Are actually the sandals of Hermes.
Okay.
But they're also boots. Yep. They're not these like open-toed sandals and you can get stabbed. These are steel-toed boots that have good traction, good control. They're what you don't want to wear if you're a hero. Her belt is basically the D&D pouch a belt of many things, where she can pull stuff in and out of that because if you're a hero, you want Batman's got that bat belt. You want something you can pull stuff in and out of. The breastplate is something I'll get to if I can tell a future story, but it's very much helps to echo back to, oh yeah, she is something of the ages. An ancient bronze breastplate. There is a purpose for that. That shows there, and she's got the wraps which help protect, but also don't get in the way of everything. There is nothing that's cumbersome. There's no like flowing robes, no capes. That classic animal or modes, no capes thing. There's nothing there that'll get in the way. Everything she has a purpose for it. The weapons she's picked up over the millennia from different areas and cultures, because that's when you're out there doing a job, you learn like what tools work best for you. You want to keep those tools with you. And so I worked on that one, worked it straight up. It was solely what would a hero wear, and work it from there. It wasn't like, oh, she's got a breastplate. Yeah, but it's not something where it's like she's got the molded in boobs. A lot of women out there, don't have breasts so large that you need something that stands out. It's not an object of pardon the fun of the male gaze. This is something that's practical. When police officers are out there, they don't have specially molded body armor that have the boobs that stick out.
Right.
They have something that is very practical for it, and they may strap down with extra sports bra to make sure that things don't stay with they're supposed to. I could be way wrong in that. I don't know. I'm guessing, but it's something where boob armor doesn't define her. It's something that everything she has is practical, is pragmatic. The silver mask means that she can look at people without people looking at her. Okay. It's a great thing where the mask comes from in the book, which I love, but that'll leave for the people that get to read the book. But with that, it was solely and sometimes I will admit the armbands just look kind of cool. The wrist straps, they just look kind of cool. I like it. That looks like fun, because you got to have fun with it. But everything there has a reason, has a purpose. The bands around the torso help keep the breastplate on. The bands underneath her keep the chafing down. So everything has a purpose with that. When I started realizing that, I love the character that much more. Because if you had a male character out there in that same outfit, you wouldn't think twice about it. It's like, yep, nope, tape makes total sense. And there's some people out there, it's like, but wear boobs. And it's like, well, they're there. They're not important to the story.
Sure.
They're not something like that is dependent upon the character or any of the abilities or anything with that. They exist, but they're not. They don't define who she is.
So everything's very practical.
Absolutely. Again, if you're a warrior for 2,000 years, it's going to be a practical way. Unless you're watching, it's an anime, then it's a different design sense, and I love those things as well. But it's a different visual iconography that allows you to go away with incredibly not pragmatic outfits.
Okay. Well, looking at the practical, and for me, reading in metaphor. So on my read, the mythology of Medusa centers around this concept of ideal feminine beauty and men's desire and sometimes
Yes.
hatred of it. And
Yep.
you've talked about kind of how you're playing that down.
Yeah.
The mask, the coldness of a mask acts as sort of a mirror. And for me, what that did was challenge my own or a reader's notion of what gender roles could be. So it
Nice.
sounds like this is most certainly embedded into what you wanted to portray with her.
Absolutely. Not just that, but usually when they do Medusa character, she may be thin, but she's almost waif-like or
Right.
light of trim. But if you're fighting stuff, if you're fighting a lot, you're going to have an MMA body. You're going to have a CrossFit body. You're going to have that's why she has a muscular body. It is not a steroidal body, and it's not a female bodybuilder body, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's its own form of beauty. I have a tremendous amount of respect for those women out there that can put on that much mass. It is not easy. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of skill. But when I looked at her, I wanted much more of a lean, muscular, leaner body where it's more it's more adaptable.
Okay.
So again, like we look a lot at MMA female MMA fighters, a lot of women MMA fighters out there. They're strong, they're muscular, but it's different physique than the bodybuilding physique. And so I build her. That's why she's got the strong shoulders and strong arms, because I also saw it as women can be strong. I'm really tired of that. Women have to have especially in comic books, have to have a very specific body type. They
Right.
can't have they can have tricep definitions, a little hint. No, she's got triceps. She kind of, like, if you look back here, like, she's got shoulders. She's muscular. She still has feminine proportions and feminine aspects, but she has to have for fighting monsters, you need strength. She needs strength as well.
Of course. Yeah. Well, you've got three of the components there with good character design already.
Yeah.
You've got a memorable silhouette. You have the exaggeration that's happening with
Yeah.
the monocle cobras. Now you need a color palette. So
Yeah.
you enlisted Tamara to help you out there, who I consider to be one of the top colorists working in the game. Not a bad choice. How did you recruit them? How did you work together on this?
Well, I will say for Medusa's palette, that was actually me, because I did the pitch to Dark Horse, and I did the prints there, the first, and I've actually patterned 2 of the Monsters and Dames books. I colored that myself, and doing all that, it's like, I need to get a professional, because my colors are mediocre. They do the job, but they're not great. And
You're
I'd
being
almost
humble again.
Oh, it's I see as being honest, because they're not bad, they're not horrible. I'm not like, oh, I'm a horrible person. It's like, they're very functional, but I want this book to do well, and especially since I'm the one that funded everything. So I was like, I'd almost worked with I've known Tamara for a while. I've always loved her work, and I almost worked with her on a project years before this. And I was like, you know what, I love her work. This is amazing. She's going to bring exactly what I need to the book. So I contacted her well in advance, like a year and a half, 2 years before, like, hey, can I hire that? Can we do this? Here's a schedule. Here's when it's going to come out. Does this fit with you? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, this is what you quoted last time. It's like, yeah, but that's not my price anymore. This is my price now. I'm like, okay, give me a minute to think about it, because I wasn't ready for that. An hour later, yes. Because, which is in comics like no time at all. It was just me making sure that I could afford that, like, because she is who I wanted. She was absolutely amazing. And she was great to work with. And all my editor friends are mad at me, because they're always trying to she is so in demand that I was able to get her before other people could. They're happy for me, but it's like, I've been trying to get her for years, and there you are, you got her. I'm like, I know. And she is amazing. And I sent her the pages, and very few notes. I gave her almost no notes. And most, it was like, excuse me, can you make this purple, because it's important for storytelling?
Sure.
Like few very specific items, like, here's what these need to be, or this is the time of day. Outside of that, go for it. I'm hiring her so that she can do her job, her magic. And the more notes I gave her to try to constrain that, the less it's not going to be as good. What's the point of her doing it? I should just going, if she want her to do my way, I should have done it. And I'm like, no, I want her to do it. And let me tell you, when I got pages in, I cried. Just happy cries. Because they were, just like hand over mouth, look in the screen, just stunning, just absolutely beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a former
was-
theatrical lighting designer, and the lighting work on this is gorgeous, just gorgeous.
The color theory and all that, how she makes it all work is like when I draw, like, it's gonna look kind of like this when I draw it, and I saw, I'm like, no, this is absolutely amazing. This is so much better than what I picture. And even though there are a couple of times I'd get something like, oh, I kind of visualized this, but I didn't tell her that. I sat back, I would sit on it a day or two or maybe 3, and like, nope, she's absolutely correct. Because that's something I learned with the writing part. So it's the first time I wrote. I learned so much from Stephanie, and Stephanie, like, saints aspire to have the patience that Stephanie Cook had with me. Because I would like the first time I did the script, I sent it into Stephanie, and she would say, like, first I was like, yeah, rewrite the whole thing. This isn't working at all. I'm like, okay, and I did. Rewrote the whole thing, completely different. I mean, the character is still the same, but the story itself was a completely different story. And it would start off like I would try to lawyer my her notes, like, oh, this isn't working, like, but you see, when I'm trying to do this, like, no, it's not working. And again, she had so much patience with me, so incredibly, Stephanie's amazing. And then I realized, nope, you can't automatically respond. You gotta give it 3 days, and then you respond back, because 99.9% of the time she was absolutely correct, and at 0.1% was like me. Actually, no, she was 100% correct when I think about it. And towards the end, it was like, she was like, this can work either way. It's your choice. I think it's better this way. And I'm like, no, I need this here for seeds for future stories. Like, oh, that's your call. But no, having Tamara was, and I still, like, I'll send Tamara, Stephanie, and Taylor Esposito, who did the amazing letters. I'll send them all, like, when I get good reviews, I'll send them those, like, thank you, this is you, and I'll make sure to tag them and, like, or refer to them whenever I get the reviews as well, because this is a team. Yes,
Right.
I did draw it, and I did pencil and ink it, but Stephanie kept me so honest and was so right with that, and Tamara with the colors, and Taylor with his letters. It's a team effort, and they were all amazing. I was so lucky to be able to punch up when I got people as a team around me.
Do you feel like it's a tendency with people who are just starting out to question that collaborative process more? Were you ever personally at a point where you would have just jumped at that and been like, no, it's got to be this way, as opposed to, okay, now
Oh
you've
yeah.
done this long enough and you're just
Yeah,
comfortable being
actually, I
like,
don't
oh,
know.
they've got this.
I don't know.
Okay.
Because it's something where I was like, my initial response is, oh yeah, like my sheer ego. But I'm thinking back throughout my career, it's like at every point in my career, when I got editorial notes back, it was, all right, let's take care of that. In fact, the worst part is, the most argued with was the writing, because it's such a personal thing for me. This is very much very much a personal story about helping people, because the core of the story is helping people out. And so much of my problem was I had so many things I wanted to put into it. It's like, no, as it is, it's a very fast, very, very tightly, very densely packed story. And I had so much more that had to be taken out. But in the end, Stephanie was absolutely right. And was always been that way? I don't know. I would like to think I would. But I can also see, back starting out, how much ego I have. But I'm also remembering, like, my very first books back in the day, like when I did my first books were Warhammer books, when Boom Studios had that, and I would, like, try to sneak little, like, Easter eggs in there, and the editor would catch, like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, okay, it's out. Whereas like, they had a readout of one of the factions there with, like, it was Tau with, like, the Tau language there. I'm like, it's like, what if I wrote in, like, a fun, like, Bruce Campbell, like, Army of Darkness line in there? It's like, no, you can't do that. People translate that. You gotta get rid of, like, okay. So I'd like to think that I wouldn't in the future have been, but it's almost like it's pure supposition. It's pure guesswork. So
Well, yeah, if anybody else could go back and look at our younger selves with a true lens and see who we authentically are, it'd probably scare us.
it would be, and even that, it's, we're a period of our time, but it's also those mistakes that we made back then make us who we are now.
Right.
And it's one of
Exactly.
those, like, tough things. Like, if you'd go back and, like, before we went along, we're talking about, like, like, different pieces of artwork we missed out on.
Yeah.
But there'll always be something like that. It's like, we got this, that would just been our victory. Then we found something else that we would have missed on. That would have been our focus for that, because we've all got pieces that we have now. Like, oh yes, I got it. And, like, but they were never 100%. So it's
My
always
classic example of this is back in the day when I was working with wrestling. Hulk Hogan got the opportunity, got the phone call, and I hate using a Hulk Hogan reference now,
No,
but
it's okay.
anyway, he got the phone call about what would be the George Foreman grill. So he got the
Yeah.
first phone call and missed it. So it could have
Ah,
been the Hulk Hogan grill, but instead
yep.
he got the little hand mixer that nobody remembers that broke
Yeah, I
down
don't.
after you used it 2 times,
Yeah, I
for
don't
your
remember that at
smoothie.
all.
But yeah, it was just because he didn't answer the phone.
Yep.
And
No, we've all got, and that's thing. We've all got those, and the other times, we've also like, wow, that could have been me. Because there are
yep,
other times there, like I've had projects that were incredibly useful for me and promoted myself. I was not the first person they called, and it's like the other person either didn't want to or they fought too much or whatever, and all of a sudden I've got these projects as well, and I've missed stuff as well, and it's part of the fun of life.
oh, absolutely.
What's this?
Well, this is one of the most memorable books of 2024 for me, and the primary reason is the atmosphere you created using kinesics in the
Mhm.
storytelling. So let me step back a moment. I get a lot of submissions asking for feedback prior to publication from people. One of the things I always suggest to newer comics writers is, can you tell your story concisely without needing words, right? Will the story alone convey the message? This is one of the best I've ever seen in that department. Medusa moves through
Oh,
much
thank
of the
you.
book in a shroud of silence, which lends her
Mhm.
a confidence without that annoying internal monologue that usually happens. And it adds to the mystery and the tension of the surroundings you're putting her in. So, where did that blueprint come from?
It was just, I mean, it was always there. One, it made me greatly appreciate why the Doctor always has companions in Doctor Who,
Okay.
because that way it's those companions are great for exposition. Where it's like, what's this? Well, this is right here. So it's a natural form of exposition. With this, I was never allowed that. She has no psychic. There's no reason for her to have a psychic. So I had to make sure that every exposition had to come naturally from other conversations. And the other thing is, I actually got rid of a lot of dialogue throughout. There, like their pages were there was like a full thing of dialogue. Like after, I'm not spoiled, but after the end, after the big confrontation, there's an interaction. And if you read this, you know what I'm talking about, and it's all silent.
Yeah.
And people that read this know exactly what I'm talking about. There was actually dialogue. There was actually a lot of dialogue for that. And I've started following a lot of like writer Instagram pages. This a
Yeah.
year and a half ago, and they started talking about how there are all these scenes that were silent scenes that weren't written that way, but they allowed the motion and the action to convey the story. I'm like, they're absolutely right. And there was another time, like, as much as I love the Matrix movies, I can't stand the part where Leo and Trinity crest the clouds and they see the sky and it's a beautiful scene. And then Trinity says it's so beautiful and she ruins everything by saying that. We
Yes.
don't need that. It slows it down. It stops the scene. We can tell Karen Moss is a great actor and she can carry with that. We don't need that. But by her saying that, it stops everything. And that's why it's so many scenes within, try to see so many scenes within the book that do we need words here? And part of it is also I'm horrible at dialogue, and sometimes it's best to lean on my strengths of the visual storytelling. And so I really wanted to push that and allow the scenes to speak for themselves. Pardon the pun. And so there was sometimes it was that insecurity of being a new writer, but other times like this isn't needed, this isn't necessary. We can let this go. And so much of the writing was comic writing is editing.
Yes.
Because when you write TVs and movies, you can spit the dialogue quickly. You can have a whole speech in 30 seconds. You're good. When you have 20, 40, 60, 80 pages, you have to be incredibly concise. You almost like you're not speaking in dialogue, you're speaking in nuanced keywords. And so much of my writing was, a lot of it was also Stephanie saying, you got too many words. You got to trim this down. This is taking way too much space. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Yep, you're right. And it wasn't until Taylor showed me the letters. I was like, Stephanie, you're absolutely right. Thank you for keeping it on that because you are amazing. But so as I was writing, I was realizing as well, I was like, no, we don't need this. This isn't necessary. It's almost like the knock in the darkness or Alien where you don't see the alien, where it's like allow the reader to create those images in their head. I mean, sometimes you got to show the monster. That's what this book goes. Okay, here's the monster, here's the big bad, here are these things. You need that. Other times, if you allow the reader to assign those emotions, allow the reader to assign the feelings, assign what they're afraid of or happy to see, It's great. That said, you also can't do, and she looked she looked there and she saw things she could not comprehend. Like, well, show those. This is a comic. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. And yes, I did not want to do the um, the narrator captions. I tried to avoid those as much as possible, where it was solely Scotland, 8:31 a.m. That we've got our
Right.
setting, we've got our time. That's kind of important. And I think after that one was, I think we had a caption the last page. And beyond that, I tried to avoid captions at all costs. They're because for me, the captions are wonderful for noir stories in 1960s comics because they're that narrator that tells you the story. With my story, if you're a child, you don't need you are the narrator. The story is the narrator, and to have those things in there, um, I try to avoid them as much as possible.
Well, it's one of the best examples of pacing, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, because I come from a music background, and
Yeah.
I'm always looking for beats in a comic, a cadence with the panels that helps, pace the reader's experience of it. So Medusa moves through these moments, switching from what for me was quiet to cacophony. There's a scene where she's walking through an archaeological site into what looks like a tomb. You can almost hear the crunch underfoot of her steps, dust moving, you're like walking through an old barn, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets really frenetic with these oval panel breaks that traverse the page like water droplets on a window pane after the rain.
Yeah.
So, how as a storyteller do you connect with a reader with using the pace in this? Because I absolutely love that part of it.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. There's no, I mean, it'd be great if there's like, it's Iceberg method or something like that. It was solely like, how does this need to be told? Do I need to expand it out? Do I need to slow it down? Do I need wider panels? Do I need to give it more space? Do I need to collapse panels in order to create a bit of claustrophobia? Do I need unique panel shapes in order to overemphasize wherever the emotion is going through? Do I need them to go off the page in order to give it that timelessness or really space it out as well? And when I was pacing it out, it was starting with, okay, I've got 80 pages. I've got to tell the story in 80 pages. I need a setup. I need to stop down. And it wasn't like three act. I didn't treat it as a 3-act play. It was solely, I need to get from here to here. And what points are the most important emotionally? What have the greatest emotional content? Because people may look at this like, oh wow, you got a fight scene. I want to do 5 pages or 10 pages on the fight scene, just them beating stuff up because it looks cool. I'm like, I don't have that energy. I don't have that time. Every page needs a purpose. Every panel needs a purpose. Every line needs a purpose, and that purpose is to make the reader care about what's going on. And so that's why that's why there wasn't as much action as there was. There's so much more dialogue because I needed to make sure that people cared what was happening. No one can tell you really what the plot of the plot of the Mission Impossible movies were. No one can tell you really what was the character growth here. They can tell you, oh man, that was really cool where even him jumped over this thing, because that's what that story is. And I love those stories. That's not the story I wanted to tell here. I wanted to tell the story about emotional growth, about caring about the character, caring why, and wanting them to do well, wanting good things to happen. And so therefore it was all the pacing.
Well, you touched on emotional growth there. So walk me through the challenges of depicting Medusa as a character, because you've given away two of the primary methods of emotive expression with a reduced amount of words and certainly her mask.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the first part of that?
Yeah, so just like walk me through the challenges of depicting her as a character, because you've given away that emotive, all these normal things that people use to connote emotion or acting or expression. She has none.
Well, actually, I used the snakes. You go back to look at the snakes. I use the snakes. Like it's up for tension. She's tired or worn out. The snakes droop down. She used them she can use them to caress or to look around or give people space. So I'd use those as an additional emotive thing. But a lot of that was, and I used a lot of more dynamic gestures with her. When she's pleading, arms are coming out, and when she's trying to give people space, the hands are back. So therefore, she's much more gestural, which she had learned over thousands of years of, hey, people will always see as a monster. Let me make sure that people can read my body language. But then after that, it was trying to make sure that the concise dialect, whatever word she used, that trying to make sure that those key words when those popped up, that's where it carried it forward.
Gotcha.
But it was, yeah, no, it was incredible. That was incredibly challenging because without the mask, you can use facial expressions. And it wasn't me trying to hide using facial expressions, because it's just as hard to maintain the exact same facial expression at all the different angles as wherever the head moves around.
Yeah.
So
What's interesting, circling back to security and
Yeah.
talking about the hand gestures and how much that's actually used in de-escalation. So,
Yeah. Same thing. It's probably subconscious on my account, but it's very much a working with her, making sure that every part of her body helped convey what the expression was. As she's getting worn and exhausted throughout the thing, her shoulders are slumping. She's leaning on an object, which is shown in the story. And as she goes on, I'm really trying to push that forward when she has resolve. And a lot of it was also using the camera to frame the angle so that conveys it forward. So, but it was incredibly challenging because, again, the Doctor Who companion, she had no companion to explain what she's wanting, to explain why she's doing it. So everything that popped up had to be done in a partial paragraph when she's talking to other people. So although, like, as you're learning more about her throughout the story, which some people have expressed frustration with, where if she's not it's not exposition down the beginning, where you don't find out like who she is or why she wear the mask, where the mask comes from, or different story elements show up throughout the story. And I actually got that from I was able to talk with or join in a TED, not TED talk, but a little interview with Mark Wade. And he's like, yeah, you don't have to do that all at once. You can do that throughout the story. I'm like, oh, you can? And so that's why I would drop things throughout the story. Like, okay, that's where that comes from. That's why she does that. And it's much more organic, because I've had a lot of people congratulate me that I didn't do an exposition in the very beginning. There was like, this is a Medusa, this is what she does. And now with her story, like in 1930 Serial, it was something you learn about her as you go along. So things that she said in the beginning make more sense in the end. And on a second read through, like, oh, wow, that's where that is. Because I wanted a much more emotionally strong story. I love the story, so you can go back and you can watch again, like, oh, read again, like, oh, I totally missed that the first time through. I love those Easter eggs. And if I'm looking to do more stories with this, I've planted Easter eggs within the first issue that make no sense there, that you won't even notice, but will carry on for stuff in the future, I hope.
Well, the nucleus of the story itself, you have all these different pantheons to play with here beyond just that of the Greeks, but we start in Scotland.
Yep.
And I'm not complaining, right?
Nope,
The vast majority of my ancestry is Scottish. So, but thank you for avoiding like leprechauns or similar British island fae that is just hackneyed and overdone at this point.
They're hinted.
But why Scotland? What was specific appeal to that?
Don't know.
Okay, fair.
It was something like I was not going to do it because I was not going to have her like, oh, and she saw Roman Greece for 2,000 years. Like, it's a very small place. It's beautiful. People are incredibly friendly, but it's a very small place. So she is something of the creature of the world. And because at this point, it'd be ludicrous to think that, I mean, I'm sure you can tell stories where everything's got like they do have their hard borders, but people still roam around. There's still, so, I mean, it is a wide world. It's an incredibly large, incredibly small world. I mean, she uses a cell phone.
Yeah.
Which I love to do, and I'm putting that stuff in where it's like, yeah, of course, it's 2024, 2025. Of course, she's going to have a cell phone. But she also has friends in different cultures, different pantheons. And I love that, where everything is much more interconnected. But it was solely as I wanted to take her in different places. And this was, usually when they do stuff, it's either New York, LA, or London. It's one of those three places. And even when I did my pitch story, I did it in Kenya, if I remember correctly. I did it in one of the nations of Africa, because I didn't want that. Oh, it's one of these. Or if she's a Greek person, we'll do it in Greece. I wanted to do so to show that she is something of the world. And so with that, I think I don't remember exactly how I got there, but it was something. We're going to start. We'll do it here in a different place, and it just ended up that way. And when I do future stories, some of them may end up there. Excuse me. But it's something where there's a big, wonderful, beautiful world out there. And I have no intent of having anything extend for a long period of time in New York, London, or LA. Those have been overdone. It's very Eurocentric as well. Like, there's so many wonderful places in the world to see. I also love to expose Western eyes to different cultures, different gods, different pantheons. That's where in the beginning of the story, when she texts up all her friends, I do research, like what other gods or mythic heroes would she communicate with? Would she ask these questions to? And that's why it's very important for me to put those text messages in there, because I want to show that wide scope of the world that she lives in, where she is alone, but she's not solo. There are other things. She has other resources. And I think that was something I think a lot of modern storytellers, when they talk about reinvent mythic creatures, they don't really do that. They don't have that interaction. Usually it's like every deity is a fiefdom. Everything just kind of locks in there. There is no and I'm sure the lost stories do it. I'm just not aware of them. But I really want there to be that. I love that potential for interconnection, where like they may jump on Xbox and play Fortnite, or they go on PS5 and they're out there, they're playing Baldur's Gate 3, where they do have that interconnected thing there, but also they do have their separate fiefdoms or different kingdoms or land areas as well.
Yeah, I love the moment. I can't remember which pantheon it was, but to paraphrase, and it was the humanistic moment of, oh, I'm sorry, I was busy. I had this other thing going on via text messages. So,
oh yeah, no, that's at the beginning when she was trying to contact the local deities, if I remember correctly. But it's like, where it's like people they text, they're going to keep in contact, and I love being able to put that in there, where she does have, she's got a cell phone, and when she does research, that's part of it. She uses the internet. It's not just like whenever they do these ancient stories, it's always, we need to find the old books. Well, a lot of those old books are digitized, for one,
right,
and two, there are things out there that are current. It's like if you go through and try to look through use a cookbook from 1944. There's some recipes you can't exactly duplicate because those things don't exist anymore. You need to find ways to update them. Like, okay, they talk about this location. Like, where is that now, though? Okay, well, there's let's go to Reddit. See on Reddit, like, went through and updated all these things. Oh, there it is, and it's been upvoted. So it's a combination. It's a hero that is from the past but lives in the present.
It made me think of my grandmother's recipes. My mom sent me her recipe book not that long ago as part of that trove of stuff that they brought over from Tennessee. And I was just thinking, some of those recipes, if you tried to put that stuff in there, would kill you, because, for instance, lard is in everything. Every single one of my grandmother's recipes. I would be so sick to death.
Oh, absolutely. But it's something like that where I would have, like, when I'd walk my dog, I'd have, like, especially writing, I'd have like all these notes I'd email to myself, like, wait a minute, what if I do this? Like, send myself with like the header M, so I know, okay, this is for Medusa, and like 1 line, 2, 3 lines, maybe a piece of dialogue, maybe, hey, wait a minute, why don't we tie this in, or does this work? And so it was always with that, which was, it was fun for me, because most comic writers, it's okay, you've got a week to do 20 pages. There you go. And for me, since I was doing it, I wrote a lot of this while I was working on a regular, different regular book. I was able to kind of like allow things to settle in the back of my mind. Where it's like, let's figure this stuff out. Not, this is got to be done in a week. This will be close enough. Fire and forget. I wanted this to do what obviously do well, but this is my all. Excuse me. You never know when you're gonna have an opportunity to do something like this again. My first book ever was published by one of the top one of the largest independent comic publishers in North America, distributed by one of the largest book distributors in North America through Penguin Random House. And something like this is such an amazing opportunity. I got to do everything I could to make sure that I could earn that, or to show that I earned it. And it's
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, one of the things I thought was curious is you must have a love of irony, because you pitted Medusa against somebody with an infectious bite, of all things, which was hilarious given the number of cobras around her head.
Yeah, no, for me, that was my thing. One of the reasons I did that was because one of the epiphanies that was given to me, and I had, it was like, you need to put the main character in danger. You need to have a reason for people to care about the main character. And so, like, okay, it's like, oh, she's gonna go off, and if she doesn't succeed, oh well, not a big thing. If she doesn't make this work, she dies. So yeah, it's tough to introduce a new character with like, here's a new character, you're going to die. But yeah, they did that in DOA. It was like, hi, I'm dead. Here's my story. So you can still do that. But I wanted something not just she's not just trying to save other people, but and she's even offered, hey, you can save yourself and let these people go. You're good. Don't worry. These are humans. They're just humans. They die all the time. We're just like, no, I'm willing to put myself, this is who I am. I'm willing to sacrifice myself to try to save them. It's not about me. It's about making sure that they're okay. That they're okay. That's because obviously none of you all are going to do that because you don't care. You're gods. You don't care what happens to humanity. I still do.
So is this to some degree because of her mortality? Because historically her other two sisters are immortal. Yeah. Of the three Medusa, she's the one that's mortal.
Yeah, so. No, this is, and that's the thing with this is I wiped all that stuff off the table. I'm not going to say we're going to revisit things like the sisters, stuff like that. I've got story seeds for that, but she is long-lived, but she can still cause damage. She can still die. So it's not that, oh no, I've had my head put off, I'll put it back on, we're good, or
right.
I've been stabbed through the heart, I'll put that back. So she's a very long-lived mortal, and she's obviously been through scrapes, which maybe I'll tell, maybe I won't. Not as a threat. It's like, but it's not part of the narrative I'm working on now. But she is she can still die, and I think that's important to have that mortality to a character, because if your character is immortal, if they're put in trouble, who cares? It's kind of like watching a main character in a prequel. Like, they're going to live. Oh no, they got the gun they had. They're strapped to a bomb, and a planet is falling on them. Yeah, but they're in the next book. I already know that. There's not that worry. Which is also why I didn't do like any real flashbacks of times past. It's like the audience will care more if permanent damage can happen to the character.
Sure, absolutely.
And so I really kind of make sure to work with that as well.
So if you get an opportunity to develop this further, will there be something of a rolling antagonist, like similar? Like I'm thinking in my Hellboy illustration again, right? So there was a lot of things that he's always doing constantly but it's always building up to this big bad, if you will. So
don't know. I mean, yes and no.
Okay.
There's always someone behind the scenes. So these stories are more fun with something behind the scenes.
Yeah, pulling the strings.
But it's also to what degree, and does it really matter? And I'm working on I'm kind of working on the second story now. But I don't know if what will happen with it. But things are always more fun with that protagonist, but also have that be wary of that superhero trope of where everyone knows everyone, where it's like a group of 8 people that somehow, oh, you're my brother's cousin. Of course you're the big bad because we knew each other in college, and everything intertwines. It can seem kind of contrived if you do it too often. So
fair.
I've got ideas for something that could happen. There is the potential for overarching stuff, but I'm also worried about what if I say yes, and then all the people are like, oh yeah, we knew this gap, we saw this way back, and I would say no, like you lied to us because you said there was and there isn't. So it's very much, and it's not. I'm trying to hide from the answer. It's like I don't really know right now. Let's see where this. I've got a lot of. Let's see where the story takes me. Yes, I planted seeds, but there's so many ways those seeds can go. So I don't want to get locked into. I've got my story figured. By very end of the story, everything has to go here. If I say everything for that, and the rise might get this is wrong. Can't end this way. It's got to end this way. Then I've pinned myself into a corner. So I'll be very careful. Like, yes, I got a few things there that, yes, there are some recurring stuff that I would love to revisit or love to bring back or stuff like that. But it's also, I want to make sure, I don't want to become locked into it. I don't want to trap myself with it. If that makes sense.
I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Okay, good.
So it sounds like you're already working on some iteration of it. Do you have anything else forthcoming in 2025?
I do. I've got actually that's one we're working right now, but I've got the first 2 covers. I'm making the first issue of a book that that hasn't been announced yet.
Okay.
I will say it is an amazing book. It is, and I worked with some amazing writers like Alex DeCampi and Greg Pak, and I can't believe this damn band, Paul Cornell, who are utterly stunning writers. and the person I work with now is at least on that level. So I'm very lucky to work with that. Just amazing, stunning writer, great stuff, and I can't wait to announce it because I hate keeping things quiet. I'm not one of those being mysterious for mysterious sake. I love being able to like share these things, but never get ahead of your editor. The editor and the team have a whole like, here's our marketing plan for a rollout, for release, and the last thing I want to do is screw that up because I like working with them.
See, I need to internalize this because if I ever do get anything out there, I will be the worst at being able to
It's tough.
keep a secret and not talk about it because you get excited about it. It's your baby.
Yeah, my partner knows about it, and I think she's the only one. Beyond that,
Okay.
and for her, she doesn't do comics, so it's like, okay, cool. And I can
Yeah.
explain, well, this person's also doing these things. Okay, I've vaguely heard of that because some people say when you if you're in the comics industry, you need to have your partner needs to be your fan. I'm going the exact opposite direction because it's important to have that bubble where it's like we're like, oh, I'm working on something. Like, good for you. She's very proud and supportive, but it's not that she doesn't follow that stuff. And part of the problem is, what if the person that you're partner with is only with you because they're a fan of your work? I've seen that happen as well. That person falls out of the industry or falls out of favor. All of a sudden, that person is gone as well. The person who you love and care about, all of a sudden, it's like they're not there anymore because they're attracted to what you did and not who you are.
Sure.
And and sometimes it's good. They can also ground you very much with like, here's this crazy stuff. Here's this industry politics thing going on, and she'll look like, so it's just this. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're right. That's it. I mean, it's big, but it's also helps you give a really great sense of scope and scale.
Yeah, and it's really important to have those perspectives that are outside it because the industry does have a tendency to exaggerate things, blow things up, maybe more than they materially really are. But
yeah, and scope and scale is the best way to put it for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll never have to worry about that. My wife hates comics, so it'll be all good. It'll be all good.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get that.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to follow up on our Blue Sky conversation from a couple of days ago. And to fill everyone in, I noticed the Storm Shadow sketch that Tony had done. He was planning on getting signed by Keone Young, who is the voice actor for the Storm Shadow character on the G.I. Joe cartoon series in the 80s. You were planning on hitting up Superhero Saturday in Phoenix, I believe?
I was actually a guest on Superhero Saturday.
Okay.
So it's like, for that, past couple of years, I've been lucky enough to do the promotional work for it. So if you were in Phoenix, you went to Quick Trip, which is like the local gas stations / convenience store. They'd have my artwork up, or my artwork with Mesa Colors by Val Hochberg, and she colored it. But so I was very much the promotional face for it, and I went down there and I would sign stuff, do little sketches for charity, and so I did that. And yes, I did get it signed, and I'm trying to see. It's around here somewhere. Is it back here?
No. While you're looking, it looked like that was a fairly heavy cosplay event.
It was. They've got a lot of cosplayers there, and they've got the different performers. Like they not just cosplay, but they had like one of those suspension rings where people slide down on it and spin around. And
oh, cool.
So yeah, it's cosplay. They had like a couple baseball players there, and looking up the side, see if it's in the scanner. Nope, not in the scanner. But yeah, I actually got him to sign it. He was the nicest guy, and so I definitely this is all the artwork that you can't see. So
the video version, people will be able to check it out.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I actually got him to sign it, but he did say don't. He actually wrote down Storm Shadow in Sharpie. He was like, don't show this to people even that knows Japanese because he's like he wasn't proud of his penmanship, so I'll block that up. But yeah, I'll be posting that up probably the next day or two.
Oh, way cool.
But he was nice. The other thing I got from him was the same actor was also the star baseball player in Deep Space Nine.
I didn't know that.
Me neither till I got there. I'm like, oh, actually, let me take it out of the sheet. Look, because like when voice actors will have the little prints you can buy that can sign.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's go look. I'm like, oh, what? I'm a huge DS9 fan, and he was the actor who was the played the shortstop that was within the episode. So apparently they gave him, or he asked, hey, can I have the card? The card, like, yeah, they gave it. So it's like actually have all the stats on the back as well. And So he prints those out and he signs those. Like, that's amazing. He got him to sign it. And,
Hopefully they give him a decent batting average.
well, he was like one of the top players of the league. So I have to. Yeah, I don't know baseball enough. Oh, actually, his averages were like 300, 304, 317, 336, 361, 368, and then final season 2025, 390.
That is high. That is
Yes,
very high.
that I do know. So
Okay.
but yeah, so the full card, he got that. So yeah, I had to get one of those as well, and he signed it, and totally worth it. So if you see him, talk to him, buy some from him, he's wonderful as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's an understatement to say that show is foundational for me.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yep.
if you remember it, but there was an episode where Spirit and Storm Shadow end up saving each other. It's
Yep.
called The Island of No Return. I actually did have to look that up. But I'll never forget that line, when next we meet as enemies. And
Yep.
it was a absolute light bulb moment of realization for me as a kid that good and evil were not these binary
Yep.
things. It just shattered that illusion for me. So
Yep, that's okay. The episode that always broke my brain with that is where they went to alternate dimension, and they're like, oh, there's like Breaker, Stealer, and maybe could think it wasn't Clutcher. Someone else, like, they're dead there. Like, you see like the uniform and the bones, and like some of those people would go back and realize it was so that way they can switch the toy characters. Like, oh, look at these characters. We can bring these new characters to take their spot and sell more toys. No, I know, don't care. But yeah, the alternate universe one, like, I still remember that line where they're trying to get stuff from this old like shack store. They put the money down, they leave, and the guy runs like, "What are you doing? I can't use these. These are American." Like, and throwing like the cash, the money at them as they run away, and I was like, "What?" Just broke my brain.
We need to get you hooked up doing some GI Joe covers for schools for sure. So we should contact Skybound or do whatever we need to do here.
I would love to. It's one of those things right now. I those things I would love to sneak into cover 2 or some backup stuff. I am so busy right now because right now I'm working on a monthly and doing the covers for it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like, I would love to. Hopefully in a couple months I'll hit them up again. Actually, I haven't even I've yet to hit them up once. It's a weird thing where I'm lucky enough right now to be busy, where I want to make sure that all my focus on this, because back in the day you say, I'll work 100 hours a week. That's not a problem. Now it's like, that's not healthy. It's important to have that
you
balance.
can't do that. Yeah.
And so it's like one of those things where I would love to, and I've had to turn out other projects as well, with some really big companies, but it's like, yeah, I would love to. I just can't do this right now. I've got to focus on this, because I've done that where I've worked on 2 to 3 books at the same time, and it never works out well. It's a great short term for the bank account, but it's so the product is never good enough, and the editors are like, always, Chris, are you just working on this? Are you relying on other stuff? I'm getting your full thing, or are you just hacking it out? And there can be an issue with respect and rehiring with stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But no, I would absolutely. That's always been on one of my dream lists. So I'll be posting occasionally, like, hey, GI Joe, like hey, Skybound, or at Skybound Entertainment, and down the road. But the thing is, when I want to be really serious about that, I know who I don't know the editor, but I know how to get a hold of the editor. I'm like, hey, my name's Tony Parker. This is stuff I've done. I would love to play in your sandbox and take it from there. But I also will say, if they're like, hey, Tony, you want to do a Storm Shadow cover? Yes. Want something to go with Roadblock? Absolutely. We got this Duke thing. Yes, please.
Make the time.
I'll find the time so that it doesn't interfere with my regular scheduled work. So,
I mean, good for you for setting boundaries. It's really important.
It's learned. I've done that where I've done 2 books at the same time, and it is miserable. It is exhausting. We've all been that. Or I think at one point I was doing 3 books at one time.
Ooh.
And it was, I mean, they're all different schedules, and I was able to barely make it work, but none of them were great. And it was exhausting. It's like, you know what? You got to learn, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And because in the end, it just doesn't work out. And no one's happy except for your bank. And even then,
no artist ever wants to lament putting out anything that is not their best work.
Well, not just that. It's you are always based off of your last project. And that's the biggest thing with it. Is like, so what'd you do last? Like, oh, I had to act something out. It looks like crap, but I'm much better now. Like, no editor wants to hear that. And every editor can see that.
Yeah.
So it's always a balancing act.
Well, as I've stated, Medusa is a remarkable piece of serial art. It's on the short list of jaw-dropping visual treats of 2024 for me.
Thank you.
Fans of Hellboy, Once and Future will absolutely love this. So do yourself a favor and track it down. I always get on people who are on the show to pitch more. And I saw on Instagram you have very reasonable commissions open for Emerald City Comic Con, I
That is
believe, in
correct.
March. So
I
tell
do.
the people what you're doing.
For Emerald City, I'm doing commissions, 9-inch by 12-inch. I've got 4 different price structures with it. So therefore, try to make sure it fits everyone's budget and what they're looking for. It's they're all pre-show commissions. So you contact me online, I get paid in advance, and when you show up, I give it to you. And if you can't make it, then I will give it to a representative, but it's got to be at show, because I don't want to like, oh, you just mail it to me later. Like, no, I'm very specific because I want to make it equal and fair for everyone that can make it or can have a friend that make it. But it's $100 for a crisp, clean line art, 200, if I remember correctly, 200 for details. Actually, I've got it right over here. Pull this up. Detailed line art, 300 for a line in ink wash, so it's a grayscale, and 400 more for ink with color. So some like want just a one color background, or multicolor painting, or even an acrylic painting, 9 by 12. And yeah, I actually prefer to do pre-show commissions versus at-show commissions. They look much better. They're the same price either way. That includes, like, if you want a sketch cover, let me know what kind you want, and I'll pick one up and do it, because I won't have people send me the sketch covers, because that's a lot of expense in case the paper is crap.
Yeah.
Because that's a problem with a lot of sketch covers. It's wildly dynamic on the quality of the paper. Some are great, some are absolutely horrible, and usually the company has no control over it, just that batch of paper for that print run. But that's, yeah, so I'm doing that for Emerald City Comic Con, and please send me before shows, because I would much prefer to do your commission at home, where I'm at my studio, where I can take all the time, do all the reference. I'm not distracted or splitting focus. I'm going to rush it out. You'll get a much better product for it, and then we can just sit and talk for a while, because I love talking to people at shows.
So where's the easiest place to catch you online?
I'm on all the places. Blue Sky is probably my favorite favorite one right now, which you can hit me with chat. But I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, which also have instant messages. Excuse me. You can also check my website, tonyparkerart.com. It's a very bare bones website. It's basically there's a placeholder, but it does have messaging there. But I don't know how accurate it is, so I definitely suggest either Blue Sky, Instagram, or Facebook to get a hold with me. And if I usually respond within a day, and so if you contact me, I don't hear back from within a day, ping me on any post I put up, because sometimes filters will filter stuff out.
Sure.
But I try to be very respectful and contact back. And usually for the more expensive ones, I'll send a version of the pencil before I ink it. Like, hey, here's what I'm looking at. The $100 ones are like, yeah, well, this will just work. Trust me on this one. Anything above that, it will be here are the pencils, so you can make a quick correction. Beyond that, I will always try to do my best, but I also don't read minds. So I try to do very much, because I've had 1 or 2 commissions where it's like, I could tell they wanted me to read their mind, and then I'm not going to make them happy, no matter what.
I've got a lot on my wall downstairs now, and I've never been disappointed.
Yeah.
So
and it's everyone's had stuff where it's like it's all about managed expectations. Some people will want to go through this is exactly what I want. If you know exactly what it is, they're frustrated, and I get that, and it's a lot of money. I respect that as well. But I assure you, whenever I do a commission, I'm always trying to do my very best within the situation as it is. But that's also why I want to do them at home, because when I'm doing them at shows, I'm not just drawing. I'm having to watch my table and make sure no one steals anything. Watch for people come by in case they want to talk and interact, or if they have questions. And now with Medusa out, it's going to be a lot of talking like, hey, buy my book, or here's something you can buy it here. Here's, because what I'll do now is when I do shows, I'll have a flyer with Medusa on the front. On the back will be all the local comic shops and comic shops and hopefully bookstores in the area that you can get it at, because almost every comic shop are happy to pre-order or order a book for you.
Sure.
All of them do. They've got the reasons. I respect that. But it's like, yeah, I'd love to, but I can't get it now. Well, here you go. Next time at your local shop, or a month down the road, here's the ISBN number. Here is the diamond order code. Well, not diamond anymore, but here's the ISBN number. So that way you can order it. That way you can get it when you're ready. Because the other thing is, and I'm wrapping it up. Not that you're pressuring me, but
no, you're good.
I want this book to sell. I want to sell many copies of this book through vendors as possible, especially bookshops and comic shops, because the more it sells, the greater chance I have of Dark Horse allowing me to do another one.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, wow, I put this book out, I want it done, I don't care about this, so just buy them through me because I get more of an immediate return. I make less money in the the foreground or the forefront of it because I take a smaller cut if it goes through comic shops or bookstores. But I want to do more. I would love to tell more stories with her. But for me to do that, it's a business. There need to be certain sales numbers that need to be met before they can justify printing it all out. So therefore, that's why I've always done the big push of, hey, buy local. Not just because we should be buying local anyways, but that's the numbers that Dark Horse looks at.
Well, it's the added benefit too of exposure, because anything that comes across through a comic book shop, you don't know. Is the owner might know your work, but the other person who handled it, who may not, and they may go, "Wow, this is really cool.
Yep.
I didn't know this was out there." So.
Exactly. And that was the tough part with this putting this book out. I hit all the hard bumps of the election cycle.
Yeah.
Like with the exception of the release, which was on February 29th, which was a wonderful day to release on. Like one of my big promotional things was the same weekend as an assassination attempt. Another one was the same time when they switched, a major party switched they're not who they nominated.
Yeah.
So all these things, so it's like, and don't begrudge any of those things, they exist on their own. But it's like all this, the vacuum with that, and the book came out 2 weeks before the election. So with all these things, all the oxygen is being picked up by those things. So it's like, that's why I pushed as much as I could. I make sure even now when I see other people promoting stuff, like I'm trying to help other people promote as well, because it is very difficult right now to get any type of traction out there, as you well know as well.
Seriously, it is so hard right now.
It's gotten worse.
And I get it. I mean, I understand completely people tuning out and wanting to just kind of shut down social media. 100%. Totally get it. But it's a challenge. So I feel your pain.
But it's community. We all help each other out, do what we can to support it, and we build up from there.
Well, I'll put all the links to the socials in the show notes to make it easy for everybody to find you. Tony, thanks for carving out the time to chat with me today. I've really enjoyed it.
I've had a wonderful time. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, when you actually can talk about whatever you're working on down the road, we'll have you back on.
I would absolutely love that. Please. I would absolutely love to do that.
Awesome. Well, this is Byron O'Neal, and on behalf of all of us here at Comic Book Yeti, thanks for tuning in. And please, as we just alluded to, these are difficult times. Make sure to take care of your mental health and turn down the volume when you need to. So take care, everybody. See you next time.